Well, hello and welcome back to RAILstuff for what is episode 7 of the £100 layout challenge. And as you can see, this week there has been some progress in your absence. So obviously last week we built up this hillside here and a similar one over that side as well. But since then I've actually placed the dugout quarry area, the mini quarry area here. I've put that in place and plaster clothed that in. It's certainly going to need some dressing to look like what it should do, but hey, it's some progress at least. So did plenty of plaster clothing there, also a base layer just on this section around here as well, which, as you know, the track will actually come around this section here. So there's a couple of things that I want to achieve in today's episode. The first one is I want to give this end over here a base coat of cheap acrylic paint that will then be used for things like the static grass to go on top of. I realised I just erred a lot, and somebody did last week actually say that I err too much, and it's difficult for them to listen to, so I apologise for that. I'm one of those people that I don't want to do this scripted. I want to do this as it is, and for you to be able to follow my progress as I think things through whilst I'm going. So I a lot. Apologies for that, and I know that I actually just said after I said that I a lot. So there you go. It's stuck with me, but there we go. If you can put up with it, then thank you. If you can't, then no problem. So yes, this is where the track will go, around here, and that's the second thing that I would like to look at achieving today. Is I'm going to use this. Now, some of you will remember this from episode 2, I want to say, where we had the industrial freight set in 00 that we opened up, and it was sent from somebody on eBay, and it came all wrapped in this stuff, which you guys very helpfully pointed out is underlay for laminate flooring. So what I'm thinking is to actually use this as a track bed, because I've got plenty of it. I didn't want to go to the expense of buying cork and things like that, so this seems like an ideal solution for a track bed. My only concern is it a little bit out of scale with end gauge, and is it going to raise the track up too much, which is why we need to try it around this section here and take a look at how that works and if it's going to work for this layout. But before we do that, we need to get some paint down on this section over here, not in the main bowl of the quarry, because that's going to have a somewhat different colour. I have taken a little drive up to the quarry that is literally 2 minutes round the corner from my house. In fact, there's a couple around here that I can take a look at. This one's got a nice viewing platform. Unfortunately, the section that you can view from the viewing platform is pretty disused these days, as you're probably seeing now. But in zooming in, I can still see some of the kind of colour that you might have on the rock faces inside the quarry. But I'll do some research as well, just to see what kind of base colour we should put on there. But for everything else, we are looking at a deep brown, something like a raw umber, something like that. It doesn't need to be perfect. It is just there to take the sheer bright whiteness away, so that when we add some grass on top, any colour that shows through is more an earthy colour than anything else. So what about paint? You can use something very, very cheap. So I went to the range, and there was a couple of options there. First off, they had this Art Studio Premium, which is just a basic acrylic colour. You don't get so much of that. 120 mils. This was, it says 199 on there, but I'm pretty sure that was 149. In fact, I might have taken a picture at the time. If I did, then I'm throwing it up on the screen now. So that is one option. There is a slightly cheaper option, and that is to mix a brown with this kind of incredibly basic sort of poster paint style stuff, and I've got a green and a red there to make a brown. Obviously there's multiple ways to make a brown, but that is one of the ways, and these were on offer, and I think they were 49p a bottle when I got them. Again, that'll be popping up on screen now. So this is the method we're going to go with to try it out, and I'm going to hope I've got the right colours to make a brown. If not, then we can always go with this one instead. But hey, I'm here to try and test things for you guys as much as anything else. So we're just going to use an incredibly basic brush that's a little bit dirty. Doesn't matter. It's just for slopping on a base coat. This stuff does not need to be neat. So let's get mixing and let's get going. Well, a base coat is on. It's amazing actually looking at the camera screen compared to what my eyes see, just how red it looks on the camera screen compared to real life. But I will admit that paint wasn't particularly good at mixing. It was very thick and lumpy, and whether it was just because it's the style of paint that it was, or whether it has been sat there for quite some time and that's why it's going so cheap, I don't know. It's a gouache paint, which they do tend to be a bit thicker. It just feels like it's not the greatest, but we managed to mix it up. I mixed it up with quite a bit of water in the end. You did see the occasional splash of acrylic thinner as well, which didn't really help, but it also struggled with the water as well. It kind of clumped up in the water, but it's done what I needed it to do, and it's done that for just a few pence. I mean, that's two 49p bottles there that I've used a smidgen of, so yeah, I don't think we've even broken 5 pence worth of paint to do that section. There are reddish bits, there are greenish bits, there are brownish bits. All of that's fine. It just needed a darker brownish undercoat for when covering goes on top of it. So I'm going to leave that to dry out. One of the reasons as well that I put quite a bit of water in there as well is that with plaster cloth, you know, unless you spend absolutely ages on it, then there are parts that you can still see it's cloth and you can see the holes in it and things like that. So using a bit more water just reactivates some of the plaster and smooths it out in places. You'll still see areas that have got, you know, what is visibly plaster cloth there, but all of that is going to get covered in time anyway, so that isn't an issue. It's one of the reasons I love working with plaster cloth, is it's just been so easy to create this kind of look and texture in there. So I need to work out a colour for in the quarry area as well, and get that done at some point. That part wasn't so critical for what I'm planning next though, because what I wanted to do next was, once this is dried out, start to cut up some bits of this stuff and see whether it will work as an underlay for the track. And for those of you that haven't been here before or have forgotten, this is the track that we're using, Kato Unitrack, and it's kind of hollow bottom. Just make it a little bit tricky as to work out how to stick it down. So what I'm hoping is that by sticking down a flat surface like this that's got something for it to bond to, then it will then be easier to fix the Unitrack in place. That's the theory. The other thing is, because it's so easily cut with a knife, it then means that I can lay curves on it like that, cut around it, leaving a little bit of space either side, so I can get some nice accurate shapes for pieces for each section, is what I'm trying to say. So the plan is then to actually get this curve here laid with the underlay to see what it's like, and then once we've done that, I may actually connect the whole loop up and just see what it looks like now that we've actually got a bit of scenery starting to encroach on the scene. So all of the brown stuff is dry, or drying anyway, in the background, but plenty enough for me to get on with what I need to do next, and that is to use this flooring underlay and cut out some pieces for the Kato Unitrack to use as track bed. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to the idea is that I'll leave a little bit of overhang next to the track, but not a huge amount. So I'm just going to draw around the track piece itself there. I am then going to mark it off at the end. And there we have it, marked up on the board, if I can get that in the right place for you to see it. And I'm going to cut around it with a Stanley knife, and hopefully it cuts fairly easily. It's a fairly new blade in there, but if it's not sharp enough, then I have got some fresh blades here. Always worth having plenty of blades around for your Stanley knife, that's for sure. So let's see how easily it cuts. Not very, being the answer. So now we've got a fresh blade in there. Let's see if it's any better. It's not. So it's grabbing it and pulling it because it's very, very thick stuff. Okay. I bet you can guess what my scissors were last used for. Cutting sheets of plaster cloth. Well, that was really tough to cut, and even with scissors, with a sharp Stanley knife, it's just ruined it basically. Now that piece does fit quite nicely under that piece of track and would do what I want it to, I suppose, but it seemed a bit of a arduous task to get there. And is it then going to be too tall once we put it in place? Well, that's distinctly possible. So I'm not entirely sure whether that's going to be right for the track bed or not. I do want the track bed to be free. This might be another option. It's a bit thinner. Should be a bit simpler to cut, especially with a pair of scissors. And in theory would still do the same sort of thing, just maybe with less support, but it would still have the cushioning there that I want. I think I want to avoid cork because we all use cork, so let's try and find something free that we can use. This came in some packaging for something, and I've got about 3 sheets of that, maybe 4, so I should have plenty enough to do the full layout. This time I'm going to try it just with the Stanley knife, with the I've also found out one of the problems with the Stanley knife approach. It was a fresh blade, but it wasn't just one fresh blade. Don't know if you can see that, but look, somehow I've managed to put 2 fresh blades on there and it's got clogged up between the 2. So that's some pretty specialist work, so let me just fix that. Yep, there we go, it was 2 blades. So before I totally give up on this, let's just try cutting it again, but now with this fresh single blade. It does cut better. It still rips in places though, and then frays. Still not convinced. So let's try this stuff instead. Cutting this is pretty straightforward, although still somewhat time consuming to do the whole layout, but I think might be an option. Do I need to leave more of an overlap? Maybe. The next question really is whether it's going to be sturdy enough or not. My original thought was, could I just lay the track on the plaster cloth? And that would certainly be sturdy, but there are sections where, because of the pallet, there are changes in undulations and such, which is why I wanted to add an extra layer on there, and also something just to bond a bit easier to the plaster cloth surface. I think the first thing I'm going to do then, so I'm going to grab 4 radius pieces, positionally that's about right, and yeah, the plaster cloth isn't level enough all the way across to provide the support that it needs. So I think the solution is that I need to use this, but I need to cut it slightly wider than the track piece to just allow it to be a little bit more supportive. Might have found an excuse to rebuild the loop. I haven't done the sidings or anything, but just to check that this looks right. Of course, not because I want to play with trains, but I have connected it back up just very loosely to see that this whole concept works. So let's send it around, and that looks sturdy enough, strong enough, considering there are gaps like over here where there's no support underneath the track, and certainly in that back corner there which you can't see. But it certainly looks sturdy enough when the track piece is actually supported by this stuff here. So therefore, I think that it's okay. My only hesitation is that there is now quite a big shoulder up to the track because it's this pre-ballasted stuff. So let's try it without. So having now removed that, it needs something under there to support it. There are large parts over here, as I knock the logo off the rail. That was good timing. There are large parts over here that have just got no support under the track piece at all. There is a third option, and that is to use some kind of thick sealant or epoxy, something like that, that actually creates the support, levels things off, and actually glues it down all at the same time. This may be the part that I'm struggling with the most right now, is how to get that track to sit level. Let me show you from a different angle. So it's this area in particular I'm talking about. You can see where there's a lack of support under the track. In fact, there's a chasm underneath it. I'm sure those of you who said in the comments, I don't think it's a good idea to use a pallet, you know, maybe saying I told you so right at this moment in time, but I still think there's a way forward to do this. It may be that we use some filler in there to fill the space and to bring it up to the right level. I don't know, but I might need your suggestions here. What should I do for track bed to overcome this kind of issue where the base isn't level, where there's gaps? What should I do? Now, while we're down here at this end of the layout, you can see a little bit better the mini quarry that we have here and just how much it comes down into the base. Like I say, this is going to be painted a different colour to the dark greeny reddy earth colour that we've got everywhere else, that looks a little bit dramatic at the minute with no grass on it and no additional scenic material. It all looks a little bit moonscape or sci-fi film at the moment, but that will improve as we start to add additional textures and things to it. But of course this area will need to have a different colour because it is stone that has been cut away in the quarry area. The other thing that I didn't really think about was access into the quarry. So I have sort of pushed down this gap here. Let me just move the camera slightly so you can see. So this gap here, and we're going to need to build some kind of road, or not road, but a ramp down into the quarry area for any quarry vehicles that would go in and out. So that should be fairly straightforward. We can do that and it won't be a problem. So in this week we've managed to plaster cloth a lot more of the layout. We've managed to get a base coat of paint onto large areas. We've managed and failed to try different types of track bed. So again, reminder, we need your help in the comments. What else have we done? We've actually run a loco round the loop again, which is nice to do, and also just checks that we've got the sizing of the gap for the track right, which we have. I think that looks okay. We've talked about the quarry and the fact that we're going to have to stick a ramp down into it. So yeah, we've done quite a bit this week, but of course with each week it gets just that little bit stickier with what to do next. I think the next process is going to be sort out that track bed, get the corner over here, so sorry, the radius at the end of the loop here, actually fixed into place as a bit of a test bed for everything else. Build that ramp down into the quarry and plaster that in place, and that I think is probably what we need to focus on for the next week. Oh, and also getting the paint into the quarry as well, so I've got to find some more cheap paint and do that, but hopefully this week has seen a little bit more progress, because we've actually got a bit more coverage on the pallet, and we've got some colour on there as well, but of course there are large parts that remain bare, and that stuff we're going to have to come back to. But for now, that has been some progress this week. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week for episode 8.